Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Durple, and you're here with me for the summary of the weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds. This is like a short version of the video that I will be posting. There will be a summary, but it had like glitches and had problems with streams. So this video is gonna be like a summary for all of the weapons here that I will be talking about, okay? So we have the great sword, the long sword, the sword and shield, the dual blades, the lance, the gun lance. We have the hammer, the hunting horn, the switch axe, the charge blade, the insect glaive, and the bow. Okay, so I tried all the weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds beta, and you can watch my stream on YouTube as well if you want to see like how I use the weapons. Again, I'm gonna tell you guys the caveats while I'm reviewing the weapons, okay? First of all, I am an insect glaive main user. So, I am an insect glaive main ever since Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise. So when I entered into this one, I am very knowledgeable in the insect glaive. I also know how to use the long sword and the hammer, and the great sword as well, but not too much. I'm not very skilled at them. So mainly, I'll be reacting as a newbie in all the weapons technically, because I haven't used all the weapons. The weapons I told you that I used, I didn't use like very frequently or as much as I used insect glaive. Okay. So yeah, the main things that I want to like bring up is that again I'm a noob. I'm a noob in all the weapons. I mainly use insect glaive, and I am gonna give you like what it feels like or how I would recommend the usage of the weapons. I'm gonna give you the difficulty and why to use them or where to use them or what's the importance of using them, and what are my general comments with regards to the weapons in game. Okay, starting off, let's start off from the end. Going to the great sword. Okay, let's start with the bow. Okay, the bow, for level of difficulty when using the bow, I would give it like a 6 or 7, especially when you don't know anything about the weapon. Okay, the bow is very good when you're attacking the monster in range, but the problem is, in order to have a good damage output, you have to go near the monster. The closer you are to the monster, the greater is your damage. The problem is, in order to deal more damage, you need to attack like the wounds of the monster. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're like a good player from the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, maybe if you know more about the weapon. But from my experience, I think bow has the best way to destroy all the wounds. So bow is a very good burst type support weapon. He's not like a solo weapon, or at least if you're not good at the weapon, if you're new to the game, I don't recommend to use it solo. I recommend to use it as a support weapon, and you will be mainly dealing damage when closing wounds in a hunt. So that, my friends, is the bow. Okay, that's what happens when you use the bow. Second is insect. I'm an insect glaive main, but they added a lot of things, a lot of combos as well in the insect glaive of Monster Hunter Wilds. So for insect glaive, the main thing is it's easier to get extracts. It is stronger a little bit because they do have new combos which you can spam, and you can make the monster a lot of wounds when you're able to mount it. Okay. The main problem is the insect glaive. If no one tells you how to use it and you don't have experience, the difficulty in using could range at around 7 to 8 or maybe around 7 to 9. Depends of when you're used in using the insect glaive. Now, I'm not used in using the insect glaive in Monster Hunter Wilds, and at the first time when I used it, I'm not actually impressed. But after a friend told me how to use it, the damage output is very good. But the problem with the insect glaive again is that if you're not used to like the combos and the skills, you will not be using the weapon in it at most. Okay, you cannot deal as much damage as you can if you need to study it. So it's not a newbie friendly weapon, but it is good at dealing damage, especially at dealing continuous and burst damage at times, okay? But its main purpose is actually mounting the monsters and making tons of wounds at the back of the monsters, which can eventually be closed by the bow. So the next weapon will be the charge blade, okay? I think this one is the charge blade. Yeah, the other one is the switch axe. So the charge blade. The charge blade, I would say, is the most difficult weapon, a 10 out of 10 when it comes to difficulty. So the charge blade requires a ton of experience, requires a ton of practice, because not only do you have to know how to switch between weapons, you have to know when to charge them, you have to know when to extract the vials, you know when to charge the vials. I used it for several hunts, you can see on my YouTube videos, but again, the charge blade is very difficult to use. I used it in hunting almost all the monsters in wilds, and even at the end, I think I got used to it. The damage output is great, but again, the difficulty is not noob friendly. If you're new to the game, I recommend you stray away from this weapon unless you want to get frustrated or you really want to use a weapon which is overall a very good weapon. It's very versatile. You can use it as a sword and shield, you can use it as a shield weapon, or you can use it as well as I think the Savage Axe mode, okay? The Savage Axe mode deals ton of damage, but it actually locks you in place when doing those damage as well. It is a little movable compared to other weapons, but again, the level of difficulty to master this weapon is so hard, and especially in the wilds, if you're new to the game, I don't recommend it. Next one is the switch axe. Now, the switch axe is like an easier version of the charge blade. It does have a morph system in it. You can change from a sword. I think it's more similar to a longsword because it's not as low as the greatsword, but you know, you have a sword and it transforms into an axe, and you have charge attacks as well. Level of difficulty for the switch axe, I believe, is around 7. It's a good 7. It's not 6, it's not 8, it's a good 7. Even if you're new, you can get used to the switch axe because it's easy to use. You can move around freely, unlike other slow weapons. But at the same time, you can deal loads of amount of damage, especially if you charge up to a monster. It will take time to get used to the switch axe, but again, it's a level 7 difficulty. It's not that hard once you get used to it, but again, it's not an easy weapon as well. So now we are moving on to one of the best weapons that I tried so far. I haven't used this weapon in like a lot of games. The hunting horn. The hunting horn is a good weapon. The level of difficulty, though, I would say it's ranging from around 6 to 8, okay? Because it's a fairly easy weapon to use, but if you want to be good at it, it's very difficult to use in game because it has several attacks that are new in Monster Hunter Wilds. The bubble attack, as well as you know, you can make notes to buff your teammates, your hunters, okay? It's the same one as the previous game, but again, the new mechanics make it a little difficult to use. And if you're a noob in the game, if you don't know any weapon, if you don't want to try any weapon, I would suggest to, you know, try to have fun with the hunting horn. Use it as a hammer for hitting and not for buffing your friends. But mainly once you start getting used to buffing your friends, it's actually a very good weapon. Level of difficulty, if you want to learn everything, it's around 8. But once you get used to it, it goes to a 5 or around to 5 or 6. So now we will be moving on to the hammer. The hammer is actually maybe the difficulty for using the hammer, I would say maybe around 4. Around 4, yeah. Because the hammer is very easy to use. The timing will get a little bit tricky, but it's very easy to use. It's like a Bonk Master 3000. Go to the head, hit it with the hammer, get the monster knocked out, and let other hunters beat the shit out of the monster. So it's very easy to use. You just need to get the timing right in order to hit the monster in the head with the charge attacks. And again, even if you just button mash the hammer, eventually you will learn how to use it. Difficulty again around 4, maximum of 5 maybe. And yeah, it's not that difficult to use. That's why I gave it like that much difficulty level. Again, hammer is also very helpful in team fights because if you knock down a monster, your team can do maximum damage output. Okay, so now we are moving on to the gunlance. The gunlance, again, I think it looks complicated, but I think I'm gonna give it like a 5 only on difficulty because it's not very hard to use. Actually, it's just a lance that has a gun. Maybe you will have a difficulty learning how to reload, but once you learn how to reload and once you know how to charge the charge attack properly, it's just triangle circle and the reload is just like R2 circle or something. It's very easy. It's also very fun to use. It's easy because you have a shield, so it will prevent you from taking damage. And the attack pattern is very simple and very basic. You can repeat it again and again, and you will eventually knock out the monster, or you will eventually break some parts using this weapon. It's a very fun weapon, the gunlance, and I really had fun using it when I was trying it out in the beta. Not far from it, its cousin, its younger cousin, is the lance itself. So the lance difficulty level is around 3. Okay, lance is very easy to use. Okay, we can notch it up to a 5 or 6 if you add the complicated mechanics for charging and countering, but overall, lance is a very easy weapon. You just guard and stab the monster again and again. It will prevent you from dying. You can receive monster attacks again and again just by blocking, and it's a very good weapon for a newbie. So for the past weapons, I recommend, like, for newbies, the hammer is a noob weapon, but in the hammer you will be vulnerable though. You don't have a shield, so it will be a little bit difficult though. The charge blade does have a shield, but the level of difficulty to get good at that item, it makes it like a 10 immediately. If you're going to use the charge blade as a sword and shield weapon, better to use the sword and shield as well. Don't use the charge blade, because the charge blade, the damage output is mainly on the savage axe. So going back, the hammer, again, noob friendly. The gun lance, noob friendly. The lance is noob friendly. So we will be going to the dual blades. The dual blades, believe it or not, is a number 6 for me. The difficulty is a number 6, not because it's a difficult weapon to use, but it's a difficult weapon to survive on. Because when you are using a dual blades, you will be up close and personal to the monster. In order to deal a good amount of damage, you have to stick your weapon very near. You have to stand very near to the monster, which makes it hard to avoid. The attacks will be very difficult to avoid, and even the dash changes, so you won't be able to roll if you charge your weapon, and you have to keep tabs on your stamina. If you run out of stamina, you can't dodge, and your character might, tire out, which makes you vulnerable to attacks. But again, the difficulty of the dual blades can be around, I would give it a 6 or a 7. But the damage output is like the fastest in game. The damage per second actually is the fastest, is the maximum in game when you're using dual blades, especially if you did the demon dance combo. The demon dance combo happens when you fully charge your weapon, and you continue attacking the monster again and again, but you're locked in place. You're vulnerable to attacks. That's the reason why I put this one at a higher difficulty, because new players that use the dual blades usually die when using it, because they don't have the normal dodge that they usually have, and they don't have the ability to get far from the monster. You don't have enough reach. So again, 6 to 8 difficulty. Next weapon is one of my personal favorites when trying it out, and also like it's very good for tanking the attacks of monsters. The sword and shield. The sword and shield, I would say the difficulty is around 3. It's not difficult at all. It's actually very fun to use. Just press R2 to block, triangle and circle to, attack the monster. You can use the sword to stab the monster, attack the monster normally. add wounds to it, no problem. Anytime the monster attacks, you can use R2. You can block anytime. The block animation is very fast compared to the lance. It's a little bit faster than lance, but gun lance almost have the same blocking speed. But the good thing about the sword and shield as well is that you don't have to unsheath your weapon. You don't have to put your weapon back on the sheath when you want to drink potions, when you want to sharpen your weapon. You can do everything while your weapon is unsheathed. When you're holding your weapon, just press R2 and press square. So whatever item is on your trigger list or your trigger point, the hunter will use the item even though his weapon is not stowed on his, like, I don't know, the where you insert the sword. So yeah, again, sword and shield is a very good weapon. You can make combos. You can use the shield as a circle attack or B attack when you're using an Xbox controller. The shield attack, when you focus it on the face, it stuns the monster, and you can do like charge attacks as well. Difficulty maybe around 3 to 5 if you're going to like play the badass version of the sword and shield, but a very noob friendly weapon. I would highly recommend, if you're new to the game, use the sword and shield, and it's like the normal shield for a normal like fight. So you can use this one to fight any big monster, because the AoE attacks of the monsters can be easily blocked. Again, it's the best weapon to use if you are a defensive player. Both the sword and shield and the lance. So now the longsword. The longsword, I'm gonna give it another difficulty, same as the hammer, around 6, but it climbs all the way to 9. Why does it climb all the way to 9? Because longsword, especially the combos, like the dual blades, have like dedication on their moves. What do I mean when I say that? When you attack using the longsword, when you're doing combos using the longsword, your character gets locked in place. Okay, and the difference between the longsword and the dual blades just eats out your stamina. In the longsword, you need to attack continuously to make your damage stronger. Okay, so one of the reasons why I gave it a 6, it's fairly easy to use. It's like the hammer, is that you have good range and you can kill the enemy with it just by hitting it. But if you want to be a very good skilled player in using the longsword or the katana, you will have a hard time because it's very, very difficult to master. The timings, the counter timings, the combos, and everything, it will run you down. Especially the high dedication combos. You need to time it properly in order to achieve the combo. And lastly, the great sword. Again, the great sword is the OG weapon in Monster Hunter and the flagship weapon shown in Wilds. The difficulty rating for the great sword is around 8. Why did I give it 8 and why didn't I just give it 6 even though it can block? Because great sword is one of the slowest weapons, and if you plan to use it properly, which I think most of the people do, I can give it a 7, but I want to give it an 8, okay? Because it's a high dedication move. Once you charge that attack, it will be slow, but it will be devastating. If you want to deal tons of heavy damage in a small amount of time, in one hit, great sword is your weapon. This is a Giga Chad weapon. And this weapon actually allows you to stagger monsters and, apply wounds easily. The problem is, greatsword is such a heavy weapon. It's such a big dedication weapon that your moves takes a lot of time to charge up, and you're open that whole time. And if you're not good at, using the greatsword, hunts would actually take longer because not only are you wasting your time charging, you're not damaging the monster if the monster hits you first. So I think that's the best way to describe the greatsword. They added a lot of things also to the greatsword, which makes it more viable for movement, but again, not a noob-friendly weapon. So I hope you guys enjoyed that quick summary. That only took around 20 minutes for me explaining everything. But again, if you want noob-friendly weapons, I would suggest the hammer right here. The hammer, the sword and shield, the lance, the gun lance. And after that one, I would suggest you would use the maybe the long sword and the great sword. Maybe you can try out the dual blades and the bow. I think all of those one can be viable. You can try it out. And after that one, the weapons that have a lot of mechanics is these four right here below. Starting from the horn, going to the insect glaive, they are very difficult to use. Skill-wise, you will have a tough time learning all the basics at the start. I'm sorry for that one. And yeah, so I wouldn't recommend the weapons that you have to study first in order for you to play the game. I want you guys to enjoy the game the way that you can. If you're new to the game, comment down below. If you need advice, comment down below. I tried all the weapons so that you guys won't have to experiment by yourselves. Just listen to the video, go back a few times if you need to listen to it again. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Durple. Welcome to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Durple, out.